incontinence, if I can say that correctly. So this is basically when you unconsciously pass urine, maybe when you run or when you laugh or when you do sports, anything where you're moving a little bit more than normal. It could also be that you're fine 1 minute and the next minute you're absolutely desperate to go to the toilet and you start to leak before you can get to the toilet. So there's two main factors here. One is just age itself. As we get older, the bladder valve, which we can normally control, becomes weaker, so we're less in control of our bladder generally, and any little bit of extra pressure can just make us leak that little bit of urine. Second reason is that as our hormones start to fall, and especially estrogen has a weakening effect on the bladder generally as well. So again, we can't control things as much as what we used to do before. The other things that can happen here is something called a prolapse. So this is where the bladder, so we've got pelvic, what we call the pelvic girdle muscles. So these are the muscles that are slung between each hip, and they hold up, it's a bit like a sling or a hammock. They hold up the bladder, the bowel and the womb. But what happens as we get older is that these muscles become weaker, so that the organs in this pelvic area can slide or shift a bit. So the bladder can end up shifting position. It can end up getting squashed by the bowel or the womb. And that makes it much harder to get control of the bladder too. So if you find, especially if you're getting a dragging feeling, then it's really important to get this checked out by your doctor. And as I said before, we don't like to talk about these embarrassing things with the doctor, but this is really important because the bladder can shift, and if your pelvic girdle muscles weaken too much, basically things can fall through the vagina. So any kind of discomfort when you're sitting, any kind of dragging feeling, then it's really important to get this checked for a prolapse. The other thing it can be is just dehydration. So when we get dehydrated, the bladder can get really irritated because the urine gets very acidic and very concentrated. So, we have this situation where we're leaking, we're sort of going to the toilet when we don't want to. So it seems logical, if we don't drink so much, we won't go to the toilet so much, but exactly the opposite happens. So it's really important with this urinary incontinence that you make sure that you're drinking plenty of water during the day as well. Really, really important. The other things that can help is Pilates. This is one of the very few exercises or anything that will help to strengthen the bladder. So if you can find an experienced practitioner in your area, they can teach you really specific exercises to do. I was told by a really experienced Pilates instructor many years ago that doing things online, going onto YouTube, you can end up doing the exercises wrong because you're not quite sure what you're supposed to do. So this is one instance where I would say, go and see an experienced instructor. They can show you very specific exercises to do. And I know that Pilates for women and Pilates for pelvic health, they are becoming much more popular now. So this is one of the best things. And for those of you that are just approaching the perimenopause or the menopause, preventative medicine is better than waiting until something happens. And weak bladders, bladder incontinence, the older you get, the more common this becomes. So doing preventative work, learning how to do these exercises before things get too bad, it's worth its weight in gold, definitely. Lots of water as well, as I mentioned before, just make sure that you keep up with that. Hope you found this one helpful. Have a lovely week.